before you ever had a choice, someone decided who you would be. Before you spoke your first words, before you knew your own mind, a story was already being written for you. A name, a language, a belief system, a set of rules. You were given all of these before you had the ability to decide if they were even yours. But have you ever stopped to ask, who told you who you are? From the moment you were born, the world began molding you, and you accepted it because you had no other option. You were programmed before you ever had the chance to be free. You don't just inherit genetics. You inherit beliefs, fears, limitations. Your parents, your culture, your society, they pass their experiences down to you, not just through their words, but through their actions. If they believed the world was cruel, you learned to fear it. If they believed money was scarce, you learned to struggle. If they believed you were small, unworthy, insignificant, you learned to live that way. And it wasn't just their beliefs, it was their pain. If your parents carried trauma, doubt, regret, you absorbed it like it was your own. Not because they meant to harm you, but because they never questioned it themselves. So now, here you are, living inside an identity you never truly chose. Did you know that from birth to age 7, your brain exists in a hypnotic, absorptive state? This means that everything you experienced, everything you were told, it bypassed critical thinking and went straight into your subconscious. You were not choosing who you became. You were downloading the beliefs of those around you. You did not question reality. You absorbed it exactly as it was presented to you. The result? Most people are not living their lives. They are living out a program they inherited. And here's the truth that no one tells you. If you do not wake up and examine these programs, they will run your entire life. But let's go deeper. If I stripped away everything you inherited, your name, your nationality, your religion, your beliefs, who would you be? Would you even recognize yourself? Or would you realize that you have spent your life playing a role that was never truly yours? Because here is the most uncomfortable truth of all. Most people will live their entire lives as someone else. They will never question the rules they follow. They will never challenge the story they were handed. They will never step outside of the script. They will defend their programming because it feels like it is who they are. But let me ask you something. If you were born in a different country, would you still hold the same beliefs? If you were raised by different parents, would you still see yourself the same way? The answer is obvious. So why do you believe that the identity you were given is who you truly are? This is the moment you wake up. You are standing at the threshold of something most people will never dare to face. The truth that you are not who you were told to be. And that realization is terrifying, because if you are not your programming, then who are you? This is the question that will either free you or scare you back into the illusion, because once you begin to see through it, there is no going back. So now, I leave you with this. Question everything: the beliefs you hold, the fears you carry, the voice inside your head that tells you who you are. Because if you did not choose these things, then they do not belong to you, and you have the power to uncreate them. But if you are not who you were told to be, then who or what are you? Because if the story of your identity was never yours to begin with, then neither were the limitations placed upon you. Neither were the rules. Neither were the boundaries of what is possible. And if that is true, if you are not bound by what you were given, then that would mean, it would mean that you are something far greater than you ever imagined. You were born into a battle you didn't choose. Not a battle of war, of weapons, of blood, but a battle for your mind. A war fought in silence, with screens, with distractions, with systems so old, so deeply ingrained, that most people never even realize they are fighting. But you feel it, don't you? That tension inside of you. That quiet war between what you are told to think and what you know to be true. The world does not want you to think for yourself. It wants you to comply, to work, to consume, to obey, to mistake routine for meaning, distraction for freedom. And the worst part? You have no choice but to be in it. The system demands your mind. It keeps you busy, so you don't have time to question it. It keeps you distracted, so you don't see beyond it. It keeps you afraid, so you never step outside of it. And yet, you try. You try to think for yourself. You try to break free. You try to imagine a life beyond this cycle. But every time you do, something pulls you back. A bill, a responsibility, a voice in your head that whispers, "You can't just leave. This is the way the world works." So you stay. You push forward, knowing deep down that this is a losing battle. You wake up every day and fight a system that does not care if you win. This is not a mistake. The world does not simply discourage independent thought. It prevents it from the start. Schools do not teach you how to think. They teach you what to think. Jobs do not ask you to create. They ask you to repeat. Media does not present truth. It presents narratives. And the more you consume, the more you become part of the system without even realizing it. Because here's the secret. The best slaves are the ones who believe they are free. When was the last time you had a thought that was truly your own? They don't tell you this, but thinking is the first act of creation. Every invention, every revolution, every great change in history began with a single thought. Thought is the blueprint of reality. What you focus on shapes what you experience. And this is why they fear it. Because if you control your own thoughts, you control your own reality. And that is the one thing the system cannot allow. They were not just dreamers, they were creators. And you, whether you realize it or not, are meant to be one too. The world does not need more workers. It does not need more consumers. It needs followers, people who will repeat the script, people who will never stop to ask, why does this system exist? And why am I part of it? And the moment you ask that question, the moment you begin to see through the illusion, you become dangerous. You are standing at the edge of something most people never reach, the ability to choose. And what you do next changes everything. But before you decide, before you step into this power, there is something you need to understand. A truth so fundamental, so absolute, that the world has spent centuries hiding it from you. A truth about who you really are. Because if you are not just a worker, not just a follower, not just another piece of the system, then what does that make you? Energy must move, it must flow, it must be used. You were born with something inside of you, an energy that cannot be erased, cannot be ignored, cannot be destroyed. It is the essence of creation itself, and whether you realize it or not, it is always seeking expression. This force is not passive, it is not neutral. It is a living current, an essence designed to bring forth, to shape, to give birth. But if you do not use it, if you suppress it, deny it, ignore it, it will find another way. Creation does not ask for permission. If it is not channeled into something intentional, it will force its way into something uncontrolled, and that is where the chaos begins. Have you ever wondered why so many people feel restless? Why they chase distractions, addictions, fleeting pleasures, yet never seem to feel fulfilled? It is not weakness. It is not failure. It is misplaced creation. The force inside them, the same force that built empires, wrote the greatest works of art, gave birth to entire civilizations, is desperately trying to be used. But they do not know what it is. They do not recognize it for what it truly is. So instead, it becomes addiction, the craving for an external stimulus to replace the thrill of real creation. Self-sabotage, the destruction of what was never consciously built. Reckless behavior, the subconscious seeking intensity, because stagnation feels like death. Depression, the slow implosion of creative energy with nowhere to go. Not because these people are broken, but because their creative force has been ignored for too long. And maybe that includes you, the part of you that seeks destruction, the part that craves the rush, the chaos, the burn. It is not trying to harm you. It is trying to wake you up, because somewhere deep inside, the subconscious knows the truth. You were meant to create, not just survive, not just consume. not just exist within the framework given to you, but to build, to bring forth, to shape reality itself. And when that truth is ignored, the energy still demands to be used, so it turns inward. It builds pressure, it begins to burn, not as a flame of creation, but as a slow, silent collapse. This is why people unconsciously destroy themselves, not because they want to die, but because the energy within them knows it must be released. And maybe this is your moment. Maybe you are realizing that everything you thought was failure, self-sabotage, recklessness, was never really those things. It was your creation energy screaming to be used. It was your subconscious trying to break free of the stagnation. Because something inside you has always known. You were never meant to live passively. You were meant to take part in existence. And now you are beginning to see it. Here's the truth no one told you. The moment you start using this energy with intention, everything changes. The restlessness fades. The self-destruction stops. The distractions lose their hold. Because once you recognize the force within you for what it is, you can no longer be at war with yourself. This energy was never meant to be suppressed. It was never meant to be wasted. It was meant to create. And if that is true, if you are not just a person struggling with life, if the energy inside of you is not just random chaos, then what does that make you? What if you are not just here to live? What if you are here to create something far greater than yourself? If I told you that your creative energy has never been missing, you feel it, don't you? That drive, that force inside you that wants to build, to express, to create something real. But somehow, somewhere along the way, that energy got lost. Not because you are incapable, not because you lack purpose, but because it was taken from you, or rather, redirected. Your creative force, the very thing that makes you powerful, was never meant to be used for you. It was meant to serve the system. Where does your energy go? Let's break it down. You wake up every day and you create. You create thought, but instead of shaping your own reality, you react to the news, to trends, to headlines designed to keep you engaged. You create labor, but instead of building something for yourself, you trade your time and effort for money that never seems to be enough. You create art, content, ideas, but instead of being purely yours, they are filtered, monetized, and packaged for profit. Your creative energy is not gone. It's just being used for something other than you. The world has found a way to take your raw creative force and turn it into something it can sell. And you're left with just enough to survive, just enough to function, just enough to keep creating, but not enough to break free. The most dangerous lie ever told, that the system wants you to be creative. It doesn't. It wants you to be productive. And there's a difference. Productivity is creativity harnessed for someone else's gain. It is work that never truly belongs to you. The ideas you give to a corporation, the time you trade for a paycheck, the content you create but don't own, and they keep you chasing this illusion of purpose. Work hard and you'll be successful. Stay disciplined and you'll be rewarded. Be patient and your time will come. But the truth is, you are already spending your time. The only question is, who is benefiting from it? Most people think the system kills creativity, but it doesn't. It thrives on it. It takes the same force that builds worlds, the same energy that could set people free, and funnels it into industries, platforms, and corporations that profit from it. The result, a world where people are endlessly creating, but never truly for themselves, where their ideas, their passions, their very essence become just another product to be sold. And the worst part? Most never even realize it's happening. So what do you do? How do you reclaim what was taken? The first step is simple: awareness. You have to see it. See where your energy is going. See who is profiting from your work, your time, your focus. See how your own creative force has been used against you. And once you see it, you can no longer be controlled by it. The moment you stop creating for the system, you start creating for yourself. And that is the most dangerous thing you can do. Because if creation is the most powerful force in existence, Creation has always existed, long before you were here, long before the first civilization rose and fell, long before the first word was ever spoken. The act of bringing something from nothing was already happening. It was the force that shaped the stars, that carved rivers into the earth, that brought forth life from silence. It is the single most undeniable power in existence. And yet, it is the very same power that moves through you. Look around you. Everything that exists was once an idea. The cities, the technology, the books, the music, the stories that have shaped entire generations. Before they were real, they were first imagined. Before they were physical, they existed in thought. Does that sound familiar? It should, because that is exactly how the universe itself was shaped. Every religion, every spiritual tradition, every ancient philosophy speaks of the same fundamental truth, that all things were created from thought, from intention, from a force unseen. And yet, here you are, doing the exact same thing. Think about it. Every time you imagine, every time you create, every time you bring something into existence, you are following the same process. First, a thought, unseen, intangible. Then, an intention, a choice to manifest it. Then, action, the translation from idea into form. This is the pattern of creation itself. It is the exact process by which the world was spoken into existence. And here you are, doing the same thing every day, without even realizing it. You were taught to believe that creation was something separate from you, that the power to shape, to build, to bring something from nothing belonged only to something greater than you. But if that were true, then why do you have the ability to do it? Why is it that every time you create, you are following the same pattern, the same process, the same force that shaped existence itself? Maybe it's a coincidence, or maybe it has been inside you this whole time. No one ever told you this. They told you that you were just human, that you were small, limited, bound by rules and systems. But here's the question you were never supposed to ask. If the act of creation is the highest power in existence, and you have been given that same power, then what does that make you? You have always been told what you are not, but never, never have you been told the truth about what you might be. And if creation has always been the defining force of power, if every system in the world is built to control, suppress, or steal it, then what does that say about those who learn to wield it fully? You know the truth now. You have seen through the illusion. You have traced the thread back to its source. You have felt the force that has always moved through you, waiting, whispering, urging you to see. And now, there is only one question left. What will you create? Creation is not just an idea. It is not just philosophy. It is not just something for the gifted, the chosen, the few. It is what you are. With a pen in your hand, you bring stories to life, worlds that have never existed until you shaped them from thought. With a brush on a canvas, you pull color from the ether, turning emptiness into beauty, chaos into form. With the movement of your body, you create a dance, a rhythm, a poetry beyond words, an expression of the soul itself. With the power of your voice, your mind, your hands, you shape the world around you. You always have. But now, you know it. Now, you understand. And that changes everything. Creation is not just art. It is thought. It is invention. It is the way you speak, the way you walk, the way you mold your own future. It is the way you see the world, not as something to obey, but as something you are meant to shape. Every word you write, every stroke of paint, every melody hummed into existence. They are proof that you are more than just a participant in this life. You are the artist. You are the architect. You are the composer. You are the sculptor of reality itself. And the moment you understand this, the moment you truly see it, is the moment the world opens before you. Because the greatest lie ever told was that creation belonged to someone else. It never did. It has always belonged to you. So now, I ask you, what will you create? What will you bring into this world now that you know you were never meant to be small? Will you write? Will you paint? Will you build? Will you dance? Will you shape your thoughts like a sculptor with clay? Will you carve your future like a poet carves meaning from words? Will you move through this world like an artist whose very life is the masterpiece? Because the truth is, you cannot not create. Every moment is an act of creation. Every decision is a brushstroke. Every thought is a seed planted in the soil of reality. And once you understand this, you will never be the same. The power was never outside of you. It was never in the hands of the gods, the rulers, the systems, the ones who told you who to be. It was always here, inside you, waiting. So now, tell me, what will you create? Create, not for them, for you.